Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast and another Fantasy Hockey 101. Class is in session. So for this one, we're going to be talking about matchup preparation. For those of you that are in, you know what, I'm going to start by going over some terms that, this being a 101 course, we probably should explain some of the things we're talking about. A dynasty league, which I may mention, is a league where you keep your entire team from one season to the next. So if I've got Nikita Kucherov and Andrew Shaw for some reason, just two big examples of completely on different opposite sides of the skill level here, I would have both of them going into next season. And the draft is only for rookies to the NHL typically. For a keeper league is a league where you keep a specific number of players. It varies from league to league. But the most important terms to understand for this talk are a Cats league. When we say a Cats league, what we mean is, and I'm actually going to jump over the data real quick here. This is a Cats league. And what this means is each of these categories, without the stars, these are just in there for some reason, but each of these categories on this list are scored as a one-game win. So if we look at the current week, I'm losing in goals and assists, see here, but I'm winning in PIMs, shots, and hits. So because of this, I have 6 wins and 4 losses for the week. I think at this point, Cats leagues are the most common. There's also another type called Cats 1 win, where basically I would be winning 1-0 because I have the majority. I don't think that's that common, so we're not really going to discuss it here. A points league is, actually I've got an example right here. If we look at what's going on here, each of these categories that you can see, goals, assists, shorthanded points, shots, and hits, and blocks, are all converted into a point total. I think goals are worth 4, assists are worth 3, and so on. You can set whatever you want. So they vary quite a bit depending on the settings that the league has. But you accumulate points. So you can see here this is a co-managed team, me and Gamby. We have 240 points and our opponent has 221. So we're winning for the week. We're pretty likely to win as I'm recording this on Sunday. And we will be 7-1 after this. But the tiebreaker is your overall point total. So this does hold some effect more than just the head-to-head matchup. And then lastly, roto leagues. We don't really talk too much about roto leagues unfortunately. We probably should talk about them more often. But the basic idea of a roto league is they can be either Cats, which we already discussed, or points, but they're season long. So there's no head-to-head matchups. It's just you have whatever Nathan McKinnon has for the entire season is what you get as your categories or points if you have Nathan McKinnon. So they're a little different. There's ups and downs to roto leagues. I think you can make an argument that they're the purest form of the game where whoever has the best team wins, as opposed to winning your matchups and kind of getting lucky. But the downside is injuries really, really matter in those leagues. If you lose, Sidney Crosby, for example, a replacement value is going to hurt you more than it would in a head-to-head typically. Anyway, with all that said, now that we have kind of the terms discussed, this 101 session is going to be about Cats leagues only. This isn't really going to affect points leagues because playing your matchups in points leagues is more just about maximizing the amount of points you can get, and that's pretty much it. I guess you can do a little bit if you can kind of look ahead to the next week, but we talked about that in streamer value a little bit. And then roto leagues, again, it doesn't really work because there are no matchups to prepare for. So I'm going to be talking about 2 of my leagues and how I prepare for my matchups and how I think you should view these matchups. Now, if you watched the Extreme Strategies 101 session, which was our last one, I actually talked about the strategy that my opponent here is going to be employing. You can see he's running 0 goalies in a 3-goalie system. So what that means is I'm probably going to be trailing in skater starts. As you can see here, I have 51 games to be played. He has 47. But 8 of those are from my goalies because I've got Varlamov, who has 4 games next week. He's going to play 2 of them probably. Well, with Greiss out, who knows? But and then Vasilevsky has 3. So 7 of my 51 games are tied up in goalies. So really, I've got 44 skater starts to his 47. And this is where I'm going to have to figure out where I might be able to make up some points. Because when a when an opponent, especially on a week like what's coming up, let's look at the schedule really quick. You can see even at a glance that there's only 4 teams that play twice next week, and the off nights are really balanced. So typically on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you'll see somewhere like 12, maybe even more games played. On this Tuesday, there's 10 games. On Thursday, there's 9, and on Saturday, there's 11. So that's a pretty balanced week. And what that means is a strategy like the no goalie strategy works pretty well because you don't bench players really as much. It kind of devalues streamers a little bit depending on how balanced your team is because you can't add as many starts, but it's still typically a good thing for teams that are doing these extreme strategies like not having a full defensive core or punting goalies. Okay, so what do I need to look at for deciding how I'm going to win this week? Well, I already know I've got the 3 goalie cats tied up. I mean, unless there's a really big problem early on and he tries to add goalies, which I don't really expect, then maybe I'll have some trouble there. But I should consider this 3-0 to start, and then figure out how I'm going to get my goalie or my skaters going. Now, lucky for me, I got Rantanen back, and I got Stamkos back coming into this week, so that's a pretty big boon. But if we look at the team stats, we can kind of take a look at what's going on. So you can see has a winning record in every skater category except for blocks, and that's because he didn't have any defensemen to start the season, so that doesn't help. But if we look at the totals, let's see. Goals, he's got way more goals than I do. He's got way more assists than I do. Way more PIMs, way more power play points, less shots, less hits, and less blocks. So right now what I'm looking at is power play points, I'm down. He has 94 in the season. I have 50. Now you can't really use this as a total evaluation of the opponent's team. This is just like generally what they've been doing because, stream guys in and out and guys go hot and cold. So you need to look at more recent. I'm going to look at each individual player and try to figure out where on this I actually lie because of my injuries and stuff. Not all of this is going to be an explanation of how my team is, but this makes me think that the categories I have the best chance of winning are going to be shots, hits, and blocks. I'm already ahead of him in these categories. And then I think I have an outside shot at probably assists, possibly goals, depending. So let's jump back into the matchup. All right. So who does he have that is overly concerning? Well, Pettersson and Besser, they've been pretty unstoppable, although they have been slowing down a little bit lately. And lucky me, they only play twice next week. So two pretty good players are not having a lot of games next week. Let's look again at the schedule here. Pittsburgh, he's got Gensel, only has 3. So who are his 4-start teams? So we've got Buffalo. There's a decent amount of 4-start teams, but let's see who he's got. You know what? I don't know that any of these guys actually start 4, which will be a good thing for me. Buffalo and Vegas. I don't think he's got any 4-star guys. None that are like very good anyway. Couture, okay. Couture starts 4. But beyond, and then Anders Lee, I think he may have picked up just now. I don't know if he's definitely preparing for next week with this very recent pickup. He added him today. So he's preparing for next week with Anders Lee, who's been doing pretty well on the peripheral side with shots and hits. So I think he's just preparing for me for that. And then Adam Fox, who's been really good, and he's got Trouba. So he's got these 2 guys that are going 4 times. So the good news is that his best players are going 3 or less next week. So Tavares, Gensel, Pettersson, Besser, these are kind of his premier players. They're all going 3 or less times. And Eichel gets 4 starts. So Eichel I'm going to have to worry about a little bit. But on my side, I also don't think any of my strong players are going to go 4 times. I've got Rantanen, who's going 3, Stamkos, who's going 3, Line A. The Jets, I think the Jets might only be going 2. Oh, no, they're going 3 as well. So, yeah, none of my really strong players are playing 3 either, unfortunately. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. I don't really have – neither one of us has a strong advantage, and so it's kind of difficult to figure out where I can make up points. I think what I'm going to target, I don't know that I'm going to make a move early on. So if we quickly glance through my players, I think I already set lines. So I did set lines. So I'm benching one guy on Tuesday. I think that might be it. Yeah. So I'm quickly looking through my roster to see where I can add starts. Okay, we got Ron back here. We'll throw him in real quick. Yeah. So it's just Tuesday. Tuesday, I need to figure something out. So, who's going on Tuesday? Oops, accidental open. I think I'm going to have to move Duclair, unfortunately. He's just not quite keeping up with the rest of my team. You could make an argument for Armia here, although his peripherals are just so good lately. And then Tatar as well. They're only playing 3 games, but I can move them on Friday if I want to get rid of one or both of them. So that actually, because they're playing early on, that's actually good news for me. So I probably will move Duclair. And when I move Duclair, I'm going to want to target a player that's playing probably Monday, Wednesday. So we're looking at LA. We're looking at St. Louis. Because on this week, I'm not going to be using all my streamer spots early on for guys that'll play 4 off nights or something because they don't matter to me. I'm only probably going to be using one streamer spot, so I can use it multiple times throughout the week. So I can play a guy on St. Louis and then drop him on Thursday and then drop him on Friday and then Sunday if I need to. So my first thought would be LA, maybe Jeff Carter or Dustin Brown. Because I want shots and hits, Dustin Brown is probably the most interesting to me. That'll give me 2 starts just right off the bat by dropping Duclair for Dustin Brown Monday, Wednesday. Well, 1 actually because Ottawa plays Wednesday as well, which is a little annoying. But anyway, I can get 1 start here and then figure it out as we go on. So that's the plan, I think. I think I'll probably just lock it in right now. I think I'm pretty sure Dustin Brown is available in this league. He's not like the best player in the world or anything, but I think he's kind of what I need. I need a guy that might get PIMs, which he kind of does. A guy that'll get shots and can get hits and has point upside. And I think that's kind of what I'm going to get with Dustin Brown. I don't know if anybody's going to fight me for him. So we'll go into free agent acquisition budget. That's another term we probably should have covered. FAAB, free agent acquisition budget. That's how this league works. And what that means is, it can mean a bunch of things. Basically, it means that players that are on waivers, you have to bid on to win them. And on Yahoo, you can bid 0, and if nobody challenges you for them, you win the player. You add them on the next day or whatever, whenever the waivers process. But on this league, we don't have free agents either. And this is a kind of a common thing that's been happening lately. Free agents are on continuous waivers, and they process every day in this league. So that means if I want to add a player for tomorrow, I need to bid on them today and pick whoever I'm going to drop or whatever and hope that I either outbid or nobody else wants them or whatever, and then I'll get them tomorrow. But I won't know until tomorrow. So Dustin Brown, probably going to move Duclair. Montreal, actually, I don't know. I just think Duclair is probably my weakest link right now. So I'm going to move Duclair. I'll probably bid like I bid $2. I don't really think anybody's going to challenge me for him, but other players might have similar ideas. And we'll go into there's going to be a whole series on this. But so that's the start. That's what I'm doing for this league. I don't think we really need to go into much else beyond this. If we look into, so assuming I get Dustin Brown, that'll get me closer to our games played, which mine just increased by 1 for some reason. I'm not sure. Oh, it's because I moved Renton in. So I'm really not that far away from him. And his best players are not playing as much. So I actually think I have a decent shot of winning this. And I just want to make sure I lock down the categories that I should win. Shots, hits, and blocks. Obviously, Borietsky is kind of... And he also picked up Sherratt probably to maximize next week also. Although it actually looks like it was a move for the past week. But we'll see what he does there. I think I have a pretty good shot at beating him in blocks, so I'm not too worried about that. Obviously, Trouba is the big question mark because he gets 4 games and he blocks a lot, but His other Adam Fox doesn't really do much on the peripheral front other than shots. So that's how I prepare for this matchup. There's not a lot I can do for goals and assists. I just have to kind of roll it. Power play points, I assume I'm losing. Pims are probably going to be a toss-up. It's kind of what Borietsky's going to do. A lot of his players aren't super Pim guys, so I'm guessing he's made some drops. He's got Shaw. Borietsky gets tossed, so that's kind of the big question mark. I think Sherratt doesn't really get Pims, looks like. So my guys, I don't really have big Pim guys either, other than Kachuk, who hasn't been getting Pims this season at all, which is weird. But and then Svechnikov is actually, you know what? I don't really have Pim guys, which is very strange for me. I usually always do. Nurse is probably my biggest Pim guy, but he hasn't been getting a ton either. I could also look to move Chikrin at some point, but he actually has been getting Pims. If I move Chikrin, that doesn't really help me. Doesn't really help me because he's going to get 4 starts. So I think we hang on to Chikrin for this week. Okay. So that takes care of one of my leagues. I hope this like kind of rambling stream of consciousness makes sense as how I'm approaching this. I'm kind of looking through his team and seeing where the pain points might be. Where am I going to get hurt? And even just, I assume he just hit the start all active button, which this needs to be on every site. This right here, start active players, rest of week. It's so helpful. It takes a lot of time out. It's not necessarily going to start all your best players, but then it saves you the time of one by one moving guys in, and you can go in there and change to whoever you do need. But yeah, so it looks like, actually now that I've done that, I don't know, I guess some guys were benched that shouldn't have been benched. But I'm actually tied with him in skater starts. Adding Dustin Brown is going to put me up one, but I'm sure he's going to be making ads too. So this will be an interesting matchup. His stack, just because of no goalies, is not really working for him this week, and that's because his best players are not playing a lot of games. He's going to be better off making some moves early just to break up his bench, because he's benching on all the off nights, which is common for this. So I do think he's going to move. He's probably going to move one of his forwards for a defenseman. That's what I would do. So he'll have 5 defensemen to challenge me on blocks and hits and whatever else. And then he'll probably move another forward that he's benching all week, probably to Brusque. I think he's going to move to Brusque for another forward that will play off nights. Maybe somebody like Brendan Lemieux would be a good ad for him, so he can challenge me on Pims a little easier. In fact, Lemieux might be a good ad for me. But that's where I'm at right now. I may make more tweaks to this, but that's how I would approach this. And shots, hits, and blocks is where I'm trying to win this, and then the goalie stats. Everything else is gravy. So if I can win 6-4, that's great. And then I do think I have a shot at goals, assists, and even power play points, despite the fact it seems like my team's terrible at that. But we'll see. All right, let's move over to our Fantrax League. This is who we're playing, Hungry for Hockey Talkie. Or Hungry for Hockey Talk. Hockey Talkie is a different team in this league. This was a league that was built on Twitter with a bunch of different podcasts and Twitter personalities. So we have Average Time on Ice in here. Fantasy Hockey Trades is in here. Hockey Talkie's in here. Fantasy Ref is in here. Fantasy Hockey X, which is Chris Wassel's in here. There's a lot of Five-Hole Fantasy, which is now Locked On. So there's a bunch, and you can see us at the top because, of course, right? But there's a bunch of pretty good names in here. But so for this, we already made some ads this week. Probably going to lose a bunch of these categories because we're tied up. This is Sunday, so I assume by the time you hear this, we probably will have chopped or lost this week, unfortunately. But we'll see. Anyway, let's look at so this is Fantrax. If you haven't seen Fantrax, it's basically just a competitor to Yahoo, but it's super customizable. If you're going to play a Dynasty League, it pretty much has to be on Fantrax because they have a minor system. And yeah, so we've been using Fantrax for this league. And this league has instant ads, which I think used to be very common, is now becoming less and less common. But that means same-day ads. If you want somebody, just pick them up. There's no free agent acquisition budget. There's none of that stuff. So we need to figure out what we're doing with this matchup. And it's a little harder because I can't just look at the matchup and see all of their players, I don't think. Which is not fantastic, actually. But so we're just going to look at their team. Actually, you know what? We'll start the same way we did as we did with the last one, where we start by looking at season stats over the season. You look at goals. They're slightly above us in goals. We're slightly above them in assists. PIMs were way ahead of them. We can't lose PIMs, so there's no point in us adding a PIM guy. That's what that tells you. Very, very low chance of us losing PIMs. We're ahead of them in shots by a decent margin. Not amazing, but decent. Ahead of them by power play points by a decent margin. Way ahead in hits. Decently ahead in shots. And then it looks like goaltending is just going to be rough. They probably have like Bishop and Rask or something, judging by these numbers. Okay. So the first thing I'm thinking, it would be nice to get a goal scorer. So Jeff Carter actually comes to mind as somebody that I think is going to be on the waiver wire. He might not be, actually. I don't know. But Carter comes to mind. Assists, I think we might be okay. PIMs, we don't need. Shots, I feel all right. But if we do add a goal scorer, we're odds are adding a shot producer as well. Power play points, I think we're fine. Hits, we don't need to touch. Blocks, we probably don't need to touch. Although if it turns out that Edler is out for any period of time, we're gonna have to figure that out as well. Okay, so this league, we're currently running a one goalie strategy because Dubnyk was out. We just decided not to replace him. We just run Gibson by himself. It worked well enough, which gives us a little bit more room up front. So if you look right now, Eric Stahl's a streamer for today. Lehkonen was a streamer. DeBrusk is a streamer. So we've got 3 spots that we could potentially replace. And then Voracek. There's a couple of these guys, Voracek, Pionk, which I don't know that we'll keep long term. Even Kreider. So a lot of these guys, because this team is so deep, there's a lot of players that we could move at any time, and we're not really tied to anybody on here. Okay, so again, we kind of know the off-night teams, or rather, actually, let's step through our current team and see what our off-nights even look like. So Tuesday, there is no set all button, unfortunately, so I'm probably just going to quickly try to move guys in. I'm not going to move Stahl in because I know I'm going to move him out. So we'll move all these players in. It looks like we're going to have room. We're benching a defenseman, but that's fine. So Tuesday we have room. Wednesday we have room. Thursday we definitely have room. Friday we have room. Saturday we're in trouble. We don't have room on Saturday. We're going to be benching players on Saturday. But Stahl's out. DeBrusk is out. And maybe that's it. Weirdly enough, we have 2 defensive spots open on Saturday. So that makes me think maybe we add a defenseman here. But we don't really need to make that decision until we get closer to Saturday. So when you're looking at that, there's nobody that's benched until Saturday. Nobody benched until Saturday. So that means if we make moves early in the week, we're not really adding anything, although we can prepare for Saturday. Okay, let's look at this. Is there anybody that we should drop? Predators. Okay, so this is an interesting scenario. Predators only played twice. Do we really care about Johansson that much? We might not. It might be time to move off of Johansson. I think that might be a good option for us. He hasn't been doing really anything on the power play, and we don't need the PIMs, which he hasn't really been getting anyway. And the rest of his peripherals aren't that great. So Johansson is a good drop option for us this week. He only plays twice, and he's not contributing to what we need to win this week. So if we quickly look, let's just change this to skaters to look through who's available. Brendan Lemieux, again, he's a great ad for this week, but we don't need him because he's like his big get is going to be hits and PIMs, and as we saw, we don't need those at all. The team we're playing against has no banger stats really. Dustin Brown, we don't need. Let's take a look and see if Carter's around. That would be my first thought, or one of my first thoughts, is that we want to get a goal scorer. He's taken, so that's annoying, but we can live with it. This changed to all. Okay, let's change that back. Okay, so who can we use? Bjorkstrand would be a good option, but I think he only plays 3 times, so I'd like to get somebody that plays 4. And he also plays all the heavy game nights, so that's not fantastic either. Brassard is interesting, kind of. Donskoy is interesting, actually. The fact that he's still out here is surprising. Again, with him, we will not be getting 4 starts, which is annoying, but he actually might just be a good ad for us in the short term anyway, provided he stays on the top line. Shea Theodore's around. He might be what we're looking for. We can add him. We're giving up banger stuff, but we're pretty well ahead in bangers. So I think adding Shea Theodore for Stahl is a good start. He starts 4 times as well, and against weak teams. So Shea Theodore is, in fact, he's such a good ad that we might want to do it today and just forfeit Stahl. Nah, I think it's fine. We'll just do it tomorrow morning. This is the thing with these instant ad leagues is if you're awake when the league switches over, which is usually 3 a.m. Eastern, you can make your moves before anybody else. So we want to add Theodore, but we don't want to use Stahl today because he's playing and we need his numbers for today. So we need to add him as soon as possible tomorrow. So Shea Theodore, go ahead and star him. I think we want to add him for tomorrow or for next week. He's a really good ad for us. Brassard is the next option. So I think dropping Stahl for Theodore and maybe even Johansson for Brassard is a good start. Taze, you know what? We might want to add Taze too. So that'd be 3 ads right off the bat. Taze has been decent lately. Lots of shots. Doesn't get a lot of goals, but he can get goals. I think Taze is a good option too. So, you know what? We can make that one of these moves now because if we're moving, I need to run all this by Gamby before I do anything. But my thought is move Johansson for Taze, or actually, you know what? I think I'd move him for Theodore because I think Theodore is the best ad. And then also move Stahl tomorrow for Taze. And then Lehkonen for Brassard probably. Brassard also plays 4 games. So Taze also avoids Saturday, so that's an extra start, which is handy. But although Lehkonen doesn't play Saturday either, so it's not an extra start, unfortunately. But there you go. Johansson does. So we're dropping, let's see. If we're dropping Johansson, who plays Saturday, then we're dropping, who else did I mention? Stahl. Does Stahl play Saturday? He does. And then we know that Lehkonen does not. So that's 2 Saturday drops. And we're adding Taze, who doesn't play Saturday. Shea Theodore, who does not play Saturday. And I think Brassard, maybe, who does. So we're adding 1 start on Saturday. And Brassard may not be the guy. I think Theodore and Taze are the easy ads for us this coming week. Brassard is like a maybe. We might be able to find better options, especially if we pick one of these teams that plays 4 times that avoids Saturday. Maybe Hedel. Could be an option. Or we could play Monday, Tuesday, and then move for an Oiler if Cassian's around or something, which I don't think he is. Or somebody from Arizona, possibly. Dvorak, maybe. Or Garland. Although I'm not in love with Garland. But so this is how I'm attacking these 2 different scenarios. I don't want to make this move yet, but I'm pretty sure Gamby's going to agree with me that moving Johansson for Taze or Theodore makes sense. Probably Theodore. We also have Pionk that we could potentially get rid of, but I actually like his peripherals are decent usually. So I think we'll hang on to him. But so yeah, we have a lot of options in this league. Let's take a look at goaltending real quick. Okay, so they play all different nights in Anaheim. So there's a decent chance we'll get 3 starts out of Gibson, but we may need to make sure that we're available to move Dubnyk in or pick somebody up for goaltending. But I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So that's the plan. That's how I'm attacking these 2. That's how I would suggest kind of running your matchups. Just to, again, because I said you can't just look at the season-long totals and figure everything out. We'll quickly look through, do a little bit of a test, and see if there's anything that looks weird that they might catch us. Like, we're way ahead in PIMS, but are we? They've got Tanev now, who actually, strangely, doesn't get PIMS, but he does get a lot of hits. Huge amount of hits. So we may be a little bit worried about hits with him. But and he plays 4 times, I think. No, 3. Okay, so that's good. Shen, Deneau. They have Deneau now. Nothing on here. None of their team that would challenge what I'm worried about. Seems to be playing a lot of games. So I think we're going to be okay. Kachuk, obviously very good for peripherals, but only plays 3. Yeah, Ottawa only plays 3. So not the biggest concern from him. Yeah, I think we have a very good chance of really, at least from a skater perspective, we should win. I don't know my goalies. They have Ronta, Grubauer, and Murray. So they're kind of hamstringing themselves with 3 goalies here in a averages league. I would argue against doing this, but it's been working for winning goals against and save percentage mostly because of Ronta, I think. But Grubauer and Murray, I guess they're just playing good matchups, which makes sense. That's one way to attack this. But I think as a result, they're going to struggle a little bit. Because it's so deep, it's not that big of a deal. Running 3 goalies is not that bad. But I do think we're going to have an advantage in skaters, and we're going to press that. I think we're going to outstart them in skaters by a significant margin just by how we're going to organize our team. And that's the deal. That's how I'm approaching my matchups. I think I've got a really good shot at winning both of these. I have a lot of respect. His team name is Press F for respect for Dale, despite the fact he does the craziest moves. But I do think I have a pretty good chance of beating him. But he always tends to surprise, so we'll see. I think I tied him both times we played last season, and then I beat him in playoffs or something like that, barely. But we'll see. And this is how I suggest that you handle your matchups. Again, this is for head-to-head. You can kind of do it for points, but, I mean, it doesn't... In points, all you're looking for is the most points. Your matchup doesn't really matter. The only time that a matchup would matter in a points league is if you think you're going to win already. So we thought we were going to win this. You can see the original projections. His team has done significantly better than the original projection, but we thought that we were way ahead to start the week, and that we kind of couldn't lose. So we started making moves ahead of time to address next week, and we're kind of a little closer than I'd like to be at this point. But there's no real way we're going to lose this week, despite the fact that we played a little bit risky. So I do think that next week we'll be prepared. You can see we outstarted them 60-48. It's just, you can't win against that, really. And then next week we're all set up. We already have a couple of players that we're looking for in Beauvillier and Stasny. Stasny, I think, is a great ad for next week to try to outstart whoever we're playing next week. We haven't, I mean, neither have they. Neither one of us has kind of put in all of our players yet, but I do think very strongly that we're going to win this week pretty handedly. And that's it. That's everything. I hope this was informational and not just like a complete rambling mess, but this is how I suggest to evaluate teams and matchups. Look at the overall standings, especially if they haven't done a lot of waiver ads, they don't have significant injuries, and then match up your players against theirs in a way and see if you think you have a strong chance of holding onto the categories that you look like you're going to win anyway, like we had hits and PIMs in that other league. And then evaluate any changes you need to make, usually based on getting extra starts. That's the easiest way in any league, points or, well, not Roto, as we've mentioned, because Roto is season long, but in points and in any head-to-head league, starts are king, unless you have a cap on starts or something. So try to add starts, evaluate your matchup, see what you need, and play to win. And that's it. Class dismissed. Oh, wait, that was the homework. The homework. Go home. Take a look at your matchup. Make sure that you're going to win. Don't just play knowing you or thinking you have a better team. Make sure you're in a Cats league that you're winning the catch you're supposed to win and attacking the catch you might be able to win. And that's how you do it. All right. With that, class is dismissed.